Randomized means that when you select your patients for your treatment, you have to let fate decide. You cannot say, okay, I'm going to let you be treated, not you, because you will be influenced perhaps by the patient themselves. Well, somebody who's very energetic, I'll let you have that, and somebody looks tired and, suicidal, you say, no, I'm not going to bother him. And maybe that has an influence on the treatment, especially if you're testing antidepressants. You have to randomize them. You have to draw a lottery, and you have to tell the patient beforehand, look, do you want to be in the study? Yeah. And if you say yes, I can't tell you if you're going to get the medication or not. Even then, it's a problem, if you think carefully, because maybe only patients of one or the other group agree easily to being in a study. So actually, you have to be pretty forceful to say, you are going to be in the study. But you can't really. So this is an element that is left, still an asymmetric element. The patient has to agree. But it's very important in the design of the study to make it very unlikely that the patients will agree or disagree based on their likelihood to the outcome of the product or no product. So it has to be randomized. But it also has to be matched, and it's not here. Which means that if the random thing says, well, almost all my patients are 60 in this group and 40 in that group, that's how randomness works. You still have to then go in and modify that, because they have to be matched for all the known differences. The ages have to be comparable. The gender has to be comparable, as many men and women in both groups. The country, the culture, whatever, skin color or whatever, that they are similar. So that you don't, by accident, for instance, in black people and white people, there's a lot of differences in how you react to medication. So you have to have them balanced. So that is not the difference that actually explains the result. And then you have to have them controlled, which means that you have a group that does not get the medication, that is matched with the other, right? Now you can do something. But what happens when you start extracting data from an electronic healthcare record? You get exactly anecdotal medicine, but automated. That's what you get. So what we've been fighting for the last 20 years to get rid of this anecdotal medicine and get evidence-based back is totally defeated by these systems. And then all these people in the administration say, we're going to buy this system and we're going to be so scientifically advanced that everybody will come to Sweden and bow down in front of our computers and say, you discovered everything, It's fairy tales, electronic fairy tales, that's all. Of course, there are exceptions. One exception is national registers. That is, for instance, diabetes register, where you keep track of so many patients got treated with that outcome, so many patients with that outcome in different parts of the country, cancer registers, and so forth. But if you think about this, is still anecdotal medicine. It's retrospective, it's not controlled, it's nothing. But luckily, the people that manage these national, also is pretty poor, because the best registers in Sweden anyway have something like a collection fraction of 20% to 30%, because doctors are too lazy to fill them in. The same thing as with the knowledge base. It's too hard to go out and do this. Luckily, the people that manage these registries do not use them as proof of anything. They only use them to signal items of interest that could be the subject of studies. Nobody draws any conclusions from a national register, not that I've seen. That's lucky. That's one thing you can do. Just use them as a signal. Another signal you can use is something that's coming up now, but I was also working with the Louis Pasteur in Brussels, 20 years ago for this. And it never worked. We never got anywhere. And that is having systems in hospitals that automatically check the electronic healthcare records to see if something happens on a larger scale. And that is, for instance, detecting that you have all these urinary infections and wound infections in the hospital, and suddenly you see the same bacterial resistance pattern in a number of patients, which has happened a number of times. And we usually discover this far too late, and it's usually discovered in the lunchroom, right? Where one doctor stands next to another one in line and says, oh, you know, we all have 3 of these. You have them too? Oh, we have them. Okay, maybe there's an epidemic. That's the way it's discovered. It's crazy. So if you could put this in the system, and the system says, I'm detecting a pattern here, it would also be a trigger. It would not be a result, it would be a warning. This could be very useful. The problem we had back then is in Belgium, all the hospitals are private. This was the government that wanted to do this, which meant that we had to force the hospitals to have this functionality in their systems, or what we tried to achieve is that they had a virtual machine kind of thing that could run a script that the government could force them to run regularly. You know, even today it sounds like utopia. And 20 years ago it was like, yeah, right. You know, the kind of reception we got for that idea was indescribable. So that's hopeless. And, you know, the major systems back then were actually running RPG, if you know what that is. That's a report generator from IBM, designed in the beginning of the 60s. That was the kind of system they ran. So it was totally impossible. But that is a good thing. But it won't revolutionize medicine. It will do a few neat things, but that's all. So whenever anyone tries to sell you on, look, if you have this system, you're going to get scientific publications out of it, throw them out, right? Because if that is their sales argument, the rest of the system won't be worth much either. It's bad medicine.